Hello, everyone. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views on Thursday, July 10th, 2025, with news and views from the Nefarium. And let me tell you, there is a certain franchise branch of the Nefarium that is becoming just downright insane and unmanageable. But we'll get back to that. First up, don't forget, tomorrow we do have a vid chat scheduled for 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time. We are going to be able to go ahead with that. It sounds from the latest weather reports, although the last time, remember, we had that last-minute change of the prediction of the weather, so I had to make a last-minute schedule change. So please remember to always keep track of the forum and any announcements on the forum. But it looks like we're good to go for 2 p.m. That means get your questions and comments in no later than 10 p.m. U.S. Central Time tonight. And it doesn't matter what the timestamp on your end says, the one that's on my end is the one that counts. Remember to keep your questions and comments limited to more or less a page and only one submission per member, please. All right. I want you to listen very carefully to this story. There have been rumors about this out there for some time. Now it appears that it has been confirmed, and it angers me no end because there's only one country in the world that would think that it could get away with this. But ask yourself, as I read the portions of this article I want to read to you, what would our reaction be if either Russia or the Ukraine announced a similar plan in that war? In fact, I'm going to argue or advance the idea that pretty much the Ukraine has already done that and announced and publicly posted some very outrageous comments and policies, but it's gone unnoticed or at least unmentioned by the Western lamestream media. So what if Russia had announced a similar policy to what we're going to hear today? The title of the article, it's an article over at Zero Hedge. The title of the article is Israel Defense Minister Unveils Plan for Concentration Camp in Gaza. And I want you to listen to this. These are the first 5 paragraphs. Then I'm going to skip toward the middle and end of the article and read a couple more. So starting at the top, quote, with Gaza ceasefire negotiations underway and President Trump raising hopes of a deal being reached by week's end, Defense Minister Israel Katz on Monday revealed that the Israeli Defense Forces will create what it calls a, quote, humanitarian city, unquote, in the wasteland that is Rafah, and then forcibly concentrate Gaza's entire population of nearly 2 million people inside it. Though the Israeli government and its advocates will likely condemn already widespread usage of the term concentration camp to describe this undertaking, likely claiming it's somehow anti-Semitic given the parallels to Nazi Germany, it's unambiguously applicable under the Merriam-Webster definition of the term. Concentration camp, noun, a place where large numbers of people such as prisoners of war, political prisoners, refugees, or the members of an ethnic or religious minority are detained or confined under armed guard. In the first phase, the Israeli Defense Forces plan to round up 600,000 displaced Palestinians who are living in the coastal Mawasi area and move them to Rafah, a city in southernmost Gaza that borders on Egypt and Israel. Eventually, every Gaza resident will be moved. After security screening, Palestinians will be ushered inside the camp with Israeli Defense Force guards ensuring that none are able to leave, Katz said. Now, we've heard that story before, too, because supposedly they were already under guard on the previous border which Hamas was able to penetrate and execute all those brutal crimes and murders against the Israelis. So I have to wonder just how true that is. While the Israeli military will secure the perimeter, the Netanyahu government is looking for some type of international organization or organizations to take charge of the interior, to include overseeing the distribution of aid, an enterprise currently managed by the shadowy Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, with the Israeli Defense Forces dishing out mass killings of Palestinians approaching the aid points. More than 600 are reported dead around the aid stations since late May. Whistle-blowing soldiers have told reporters that lethal weapons are being used against unarmed people as brute force crowd control. Katz's, that's Israel Katz, the defense minister, Katz's announcement contradicts what the Israeli Defense Forces Chief of Staff's office told Israel's High Court on the very same day, in response to a petition filed by Israeli Defense Force reserve soldiers asking the court to determine if Israel was violating international law by forcibly displacing Palestinians with perhaps the ultimate goal of expelling them. And on it goes. Now I'm skipping towards the middle of this article, and then I'll give you my 2 cents worth of high-octane speculation. Quote, for somewhat similar reasons, Israel is likely to struggle to find what Katz called international partners to run the interior of the Rafah concentration camp. Human rights-oriented groups and foreign governments will recoil at an invitation to serve as a key component of a scheme that most objective observers would characterize as a war crime. Given that, we could see the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation fill the void, which would only compound the controversy. And then the last 2 paragraphs. Meeting with President Trump at the White House Monday evening, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu struck an optimistic tone about the prospect of mass Palestinian immigration and characterized the idea as voluntary in nature. Quote, if people want to stay, they can stay, but if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. We're working with the United States very closely about finding countries that will seek to realize what they always say, that they wanted to give the Palestinians a better future. I think we're getting close to finding several countries. Unquote. And then the article ends, where exactly where those other places be. Now, if you're like me, you probably already have your suspicions on where those other places are going to be. Those other places eventually are going to be, in my opinion, the United States and various states within the United States, for the simple reason that this would allow America directly to inject itself into the center of Middle Eastern politics, which has been a goal of both American and Israeli foreign policy for a very long time, at least since the administration of Lyndon Johnson, under whose administration, of course, we had that infamous incident of the Israeli attack on a U.S. Navy ship, the USS Liberty. So this has been a goal for a very long time. And if they can accomplish this under the guise of humanitarianism, then they're going to do so. And it also removes the onus of running a concentration camp from Israel. It places it firmly on the shoulders of the United States. So this is what I suspect will be the solution. The other thing arguing for this as the possible, if not probable, outcome is that the United States has already expressed an interest in all of the offshore oil and gas reserves. That is really, I think, one of the driving motivations behind this disastrous war between Israel and Hamas. Both Hamas and Israel want to get their hands on those resources. Let's not forget, Hamas is every bit as bloody and committing of war crimes as the Israelis are alleged to be. especially since their attacks on that country back in October of 2023. So this is a Middle Eastern mess, in other words. And I think the cold-hearted geopolitical logic is that this has nothing to do with the United States, and we should not be involved. But rest assured, I think we're going to be hoodwinked once again. I suspect strongly that all of this geopolitics has something remotely to do with why the Trump administration has waffled so blatantly about the Epstein files and so on and so forth. I suspect that this is all somehow interrelated at levels that we can scarcely imagine. But again, ask yourself, what would be the American reaction from people like Senator Cruz or Senator Lindsey Graham Cracker if this plan had been announced by Russia with respect to the Ukraine? Well, we saw not a peep of outrage when essentially the Ukraine announced very similar measures against Russians living within its borders, and that led to this mess. So there you have it, folks. More nonsense, or to paraphrase Otto von Bismarck, some damn fool thing in the Middle East will be probably the fuse that lights the next global conflagration. Don't forget, get your questions, comments in no later than 10 o'clock tonight. Our vid chat for 2 p.m. tomorrow is on. I will be in the chat room hopefully early. I've been having, as I mentioned before, some computer issues lately. Hopefully those are diminished, but I plan to be in there on time, if not a little early. If I'm not, bear with me. It means I may have had some sort of computer outage or other technical problem. And I will communicate a makeup time as soon as I can after that. So that's it for today's News and Views. The Tel Aviv branch of the Nefarium has been busy once again. We'll see you on the flip side, everybody. Bye-bye, and God bless.